Hello, Davie Portman here from upNXT, postwrestling.com, Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, wherever you find us, you can get us. Just search upNXT. And I am here once again with Andrew Thompson.
We have reunited again one more time. Davie has invited me back to the upNXT. The bridge is mended once again for the second week in a row.
The bridge is mended, yeah, back by popular demand. We had our pilot episode last week, and it looks like the network signed us on. We're back for at least a second episode. A lot of positive feedback last week.
I say they like the high rivalry, man. That's what they like. The people like enemies
absolutely.
Go back and forth.
we're just building to the Rumble, Andrew. But yeah, this we kind of didn't plan on doing a second one. It was just going to be a 1 week thing. But I think with the announcement of Kenny Omega being back on Impact this week, and as I said, we got some positive feedback from you guys, which is always lovely to hear, and a bit of buzz going around with Impact, with this Impact AEW invasion, rivalry, whatever you want to call it. We thought we'd do another show this week. So before we get into things, Andrew, how are you?
I am doing fantastic, man. I'm excited to be back on the podcast, of course. Always a good time chatting with you, my good man. Braden Harrington, forget you, brother. I just wanted to say that real quick because we got beef, but it's always good to be back on the podcast, man. I'm excited about this show. Impact and this AEW crossover thing got me real excited about pro wrestling, man. So I'm ready to dive into it.
Absolutely. So, I mean, you've been giving the updates, obviously, on the website and on John and Way's podcast as well. But Impact got pretty good ratings for Impact last week. And obviously, their Twitch stream blew up last week when Kenny was on. We recorded a little earlier last week, so didn't quite have the numbers. But from week one, it looked like this experiment, or whatever you want to call it, did really well for Impact.
Yeah, it really did. I know the initial numbers from Access, I think they did a little over 220,000 viewers last week coming off the Access show, and I know overall, like throughout all their platforms, I think they touted about over 700,000 viewers across multiple platforms. So they did like extremely well, because normally, I'm pretty sure like you just being in wrestling media and covering the news, I'm pretty sure that Impact doesn't normally chart in the Showbuzz Daily or Nielsen ratings, like you don't normally see it. You probably got to do like a deep dive to find it, but they've been charting over the past week, and we gonna see what the results are for tonight's episode as well. So it's gonna be interesting to see, man. I'm excited about the whole thing, and what they got going on, and the results that it could show ratings wise.
Yeah, I think you always expect week one to get a bit of a bump. It's whether to see week 2, week 3, week 4, etc., if they can maintain that. And obviously after tonight, they are going to take a little bit of a break over the holidays, but it'll be interesting to see how they do come the new year, leading up to these 2 pay-per-views they've got coming up. Mm-hmm. But without further ado, let's go straight into the show. Impact Wrestling, December 15th, 2020, from the Skyway Studios in Nashville, Tennessee. And after all the hype from last week's show, Kenny Omega, Don Callis on Impact TV, we start with Caleb with a K standing in the ring in a pink suit with shorts. So Caleb with a K, I believe this guy has been the latest portrayal of suicide this last year in Impact. But he's kind of Tanil Dashwood's kind of
lackey.
What do they call it? Like a photographer, personal photographer. And he introduces Tanil Dashwood, calling her the influence, because her gimmick is like she's an Instagram influencer, to the ring. And Tanil comes out to face Alicia Edwards. Now, her and Alicia had this kind of team going on. They entered the tag team tournament and lost, but Alicia was still pushing to kind of be a team, and they were talking about matching gear and music and all this stuff. But following the attack from Sami Callihan to Eddie Edwards, Alicia realized there are more important things in her life to be worried about and is more concerned with her husband. And this pissed off Tanil Dashwood and Caleb with a K. So now they've got this feud going on, and the match is tonight, kicking off the show. The match starts with Tanil pointing to kind of the impact screen to distract Alicia, and immediately hits her with a forearm as she's distracted, taking her to the mat. Alicia comes back with a loose Thesz press, followed by this senton to the back of Dashwood for a 2 count. Dashwood catches Alicia in the corner and slams her to the mat to pick up a near fall. And as Tanil has Alicia in the ropes, Caleb with the K is on the outside taking photographs with the phone and just taunting Alicia. Tanil continues to dominate for most of the match. He's applying a full Nelson, followed by a backbreaker. Alicia tries to fight back with a roundhouse kick, followed by a series of clotheslines and forearms before delivering a running bulldog, and follows up with a pinfall, but Talisha kicks out. And this bit's a bit messy, Tanil kicks out of the pinfall, but she kicks out, and then Caleb pulls her out of the ring to kind of try and make the save. Looked very sloppy, I thought. Alicia climbs to the top rope and jumps to the outside, and Tanil pushes Caleb in front of her to take this crossbody. And then back in the ring, Tanil hits Alicia with the spotlight kick to pick up the win in 5 minutes, 13 seconds.
Yeah,
what were your thoughts of this opening match?
It was an opening match, but I mean, I think me and you kind of like we dove into it last week as far as Tanil Dashwood. Like I think we both kind of were on the same line of thinking as far as like when she initially made that her return to Impact over the summer, I believe. I think the initial belief was she was going to be positioned as one of their mainstays in the women's division, but then the position opened for Deonna Purrazzo, of course, and then she came in and like did phenomenally well as Impact Knockouts champion, and still is. But just for this match overall, like I mean, it kind of seems like maybe they'll lean towards getting Eddie Edwards more involved in this, and kind of maybe he'll get something out of Caleb with a K. But he got his thing with Sami Callihan going on as well. So I mean, it was a good opening match, just a decent opening match to kick off the show. But I'm not really that super invested in Tanil Dashwood and Alicia Edwards.
No, I got a bit of heat last Wednesday with Braden because we were pretty negative. We were negative Nancy's, as people called us, about last week's NXT. And I hate to kind of continue that track, but I thought this was terrible. You have eyes on your product. You have eyes on your product that aren't necessarily watching your product usually. And this is what you start with. You start with Alicia Edwards versus Tanil Dashwood. I'm sorry, this was not a hot opener. You turn on AEW and you get this cracking Young Bucks match or something just full of energy and life to kick off the show. You turn on Monday Night Raw and you have The Miz reading a fairy tale, reading The Night Before Christmas. And I feel Impact this week took the Raw blueprint rather than the AEW blueprint. I'm sorry, but Alicia, I hate to kind of criticize, but she's not good in the ring. And this, I think a lot of people hear about how fantastic the Knockouts division is. And people say, and I'm one of those people that say, wow, the Impact Women's Division rivals NXT. I think it's fantastic. This did not showcase it at all. I thought the spots with Caleb were sloppy. It's just not a feud I'm invested in. I certainly wouldn't put it at the top of your show when people were tuning in, maybe going, oh, I wonder if we're starting with a Kenny Omega program. And you get this photographer wearing pink shorts in the middle of the ring, kicking it off. I thought this was a miss.
I was about to chime in, David. I wanted to ask you this, get your opinion on this, because like seeing as how the majority of this stuff outside of the Omega, Swan, Good Brothers, and Motor City Machine Guns interactions, and I'm sure quite a few other stuff this stuff was already filmed, and they had this stuff mapped out already heading into Hard to Kill. So do you think the television is going to be much different come the next set of tapings? I mean, well, obviously it is, but like just kind of your thoughts about how things could get shifted around and how things may be better presentation wise all across the board from hour 1 through hour 2 once they get the next set of tapings rolling out, and then we start to have more of this AEW Impact crossover, and then maybe it starts infiltrating the women's division maybe.
I would hope so, yes. I mean, I think in hindsight, had you have known, I don't know how long this has been mapped out, this Kenny Omega thing. It's kind of clear that it was taped after these tapings. I think had you have known, last week I'd have just main evented with the Chris Bay Rich Swann match, and instead of on the pay-per-view, I'd have just put it on free TV last week. You're going to have a lot of eyes and you want to sell your product. That's what I feel they should have done. But obviously things were already in the can at that point. But there's no reason why things are taped, but you could have easily just put the Knockouts tag match kicking the show off, There were other things you had on this show that you could move around without it really affecting anything, in my opinion.
No, I think that's a solid point right there. I mean, now that you mentioned that, of course, hindsight being 2020, I think the Knockouts tag tournament match would have definitely probably been the match to kick off the show, because it was a really good match between those four that was in that match.
Yeah, and we'll get to that very soon. After the match, Edwards and Alicia are in the ring, and we get Sami Callihan's kind of hacking logo. The lights all flicker, you hear this static noise, and Callihan appears on the screen. Now, Eddie Edwards and Sami Callihan have been feuding for a very long time. Obviously, there was the spot a couple of years ago where Callihan smashed Eddie's face in with the baseball bat, and they've kind of reignited their rivalry. They sort of redid that angle with the baseball bat a few weeks ago, and they're building up to one final big blow-off match. And Callihan says that it's time to put their rivalry to an end. He tells Edwards to take a few weeks off and enjoy the Christmas break with his family, because it might be his last. And Callihan disappears off the screen, leaving Edwards in the ring, screaming that he wants to fight him now. So I assume either Genesis or Hard to Kill will get that final blow-off match between these two.
I say, because didn't they announce? I don't know if I'm mistaken, but I could have sworn they announced Swan versus Eddie for January 5th, and I think that's along their holiday schedule. Before, and I'm assuming that's before the next set of tapings. So I saw that graphic between Sammy and Eddie for January 5th, and I think Genesis is the 9th, and then Hard to Kill is the following year.
So the first Impact of 2020.
Yeah. Yep.
Sorry, 2021. Oh, I'm determined to get out of 2020. We go backstage and we see the Motor City Machine Guns, who are talking about their 3 steps to get to the Tag Team Championship. Obviously, these two returned to Impact Wrestling over the summer, won the Impact Tag Team Championships by defeating the North, and recently lost it to the Good Brothers, but it was in a kind of multi-team match. So, they lost it to the North, who then dropped it to the Good Brothers. And they never got their rematch, but they were saying in order to get it, they've kind of got this 3-step process. First, they need to take out Triple XL, which they did last week. Then they need to take out the North, and they basically say maybe the North are doing that by themselves, because Josh Alexander lost last week to Chris Sabin, and then at the pay-per-view on Saturday, Ethan Page lost to Karl Anderson. So it seems like the North are destroying the North already for them. Yeah. So that leaves their final goal, which is the Good Brothers, and to retain that tag team titles. But with Doc Gallows being injured, they can't do that right now. So Sabin challenges Karl Anderson to a match tonight to kind of further their step towards the tag team championship. I always quite like these guys on the mic. I think they're a pretty solid promo, and getting right off the start of the show, quite a hot main event, I think. Sabin versus Karl Anderson. I was pretty excited to watch this one.
Yeah, it was definitely a good match, and I'm pretty sure we're gonna dive into that as the closing angle was definitely a big one. But I really did like Sabin's line in this promo when he talked about there was only room for one machine gun in Impact. I was like, ooh, that was a nice little one liner right there. I like that a lot. But another thing I really enjoyed, like within this whole segment, and I think it was more so Josh Matthews on commentary maybe after this segment, like leading into the next match or segment, he was like making a lot of New Japan references, and I was like that was something I was just like really enjoying. And I know Impact has done that in the past, like they're not afraid to talk about other companies, or not necessarily afraid, but
they talk about everyone.
Yeah, they talk about everybody, but like it was just cool to hear like within this specific context, you know what I mean? Like seeing these guys like get mentioned their G1 wins and being a former IWGP Intercontinental Champion, like just hearing it in this context while this crossover is going on, it kind of it makes you think of other possibilities out there. So I think that's always real cool. I
think especially now, a fan is going to read into everything.
Yes.
I mean, if we weren't before this crossover was happening, I think now you're seeing that certain doors are open. Fans are going to eat up any line, whether it be a New Japan reference, an ROH reference, an NWA reference, whatever. And I think Impact are never afraid of teasing you, and they have a habit of teasing you with stuff that's never going to play out as well. We then go to Kenny Omega's tour bus, where we see Karl Anderson, Kenny, and Don Callis just chilling. And Kenny's kind of getting Karl Anderson all worked up. He's saying, look, you should be angry. The Machine Guns have stolen your nickname. Mm-hmm. And he's like, he keeps calling him Gunner. And he says, if I were you, I'd go out there and do something about that. Go get him. And Anderson's like, yeah, you're right. I'm going to go and get him. I'm going to go and get him. So he bursts back into the building from the parking lot, passing his like nightclub bouncer they have guarding the door, and Rich Swann is still just trying to get to his car. The poor guy bumps into Rich Swann, and Anderson asks him if he's seen the Motor City Machine Guns. Swann tries to get him to calm down, and is kind of teasing him a bit. He's like, hey, is it you who wants to see the Machine Guns, or has Kenny told you to? Kind of getting at that Kenny's pulling all of Anderson's strings. Anderson says that Kenny is his friend and he doesn't take orders from him, but tells Swann to call Kenny champ. Like, show him some respect. He's the champ. Then the Motor City Machine Guns show up and say that they've heard that Anderson is looking for them. And Anderson and Sabin get into a bit of a confrontation, and Anderson says he's going to knock him out, and he'll see him later tonight in the ring.
Man, I'm telling you, so initially when I first saw this, I'm pretty sure you were thinking the same thing. You was like, it's probably going to be Good Brothers and Kenny versus MCMG and Rich Swann somewhere down the line. And I think this was a cool little tease that they had throughout the night, and like I'm pretty sure, like we talked about it earlier, this was probably something that was filmed obviously after the initial tapings happened. So I'm glad they kind of spread this out throughout the show, and I think it made for real good content. They kind of build up to the final blow off, which we'll get into.
I think it was a pretty good idea, because last week obviously you had that Kenny segment right at the end, and you saw the numbers kind of on Twitch, how it was in a few thousand, and then by the Kenny segment at the end, it was in 50,000+ people watching that. So, and I have friends who kind of aren't particularly interested in Impact, but are wanting to see the Kenny bits. And by spreading it out through the night, it kind of forces you to watch the whole thing. So I thought it was pretty clever, and I always like a storyline that goes through a whole show. So I thought they did a good job here.
About saying, you and I, we also spoke about this last week as well. For those of you who are listening who remember, we kind of did like a little mini deep dive into how the like just the arc of Kenny Omega's character has changed since he's been with Don Callis, and it's been really beneficial to Kenny, and you can tell he's kind of like just radiating off of Don Callis, and like the confidence, the on-screen confidence as far as like the promo work and character work is like really like showing as far as like what Omega is doing. So like, again, they need to keep Omega with Callis. I think this needs to be a long-term thing, and I'm very excited about the possibilities, seeing as how Omega is back with Gallows and Anderson, and it's going to be interesting to see how that kind of flips over in AEW, man. Like it's a lot of stuff to be excited about as far as this partnership goes, and just what it's just at like just the overall beginning of what's going on right now, and it's not even halfway through.
Absolutely. We go to self-proclaimed TNA World Heavyweight Champion Moose, who enters all suited up, looking very fresh, coming to the ring. And so Moose's story, it's kind of been that he found the TNA Championship during this kind of TNA throwback show they did. And he's just proclaiming he's the champion. He's the real championship. The TNA Championship has more prestige than the Impact Wrestling Championship. It's kind of similar to the same gimmick Brian Cage has been doing with the FTW Championship on AEW. It's just this prop he's carrying around and trying to get people to recognize it and recognize him as the superstar he is. So he comes to the ring and he says that Willie Mack has not been medically cleared to compete in an Impact Wrestling ring for weeks. And it's all because of the hurt that he dealt out to him. Moose says that he respects Rich Swann and thinks he's a great competitor, but he should call up his friend Willie Mack and ask him what pain feels like. So Moose has been pushing, going into the pay-per-view last Saturday. He's basically saying that he's going to challenge whoever the Impact champion is. And whether it be unify the titles or be a double champion or whatever, that's what Moose is going for. His vision is on the Impact Championship, and therefore now it's on Rich Swann. But Willie Mack comes out, even though he's not been cleared and he's injured, and immediately security are holding him back. And Moose asks Mack if he really wants to make him angry. And Mack says that he's not angry at Moose. He's not even angry that Moose has been attacking him. What he's angry about, what pisses him off, is that the referee called off the match. He's annoyed that he never gave up and the referee made that decision for him. So he challenges Moose to an I Quit match at Genesis. And then Mack comes into the ring. The two start to brawl. Security pull them apart. But Moose jumps in, punching Mack, knocking him to the mat. And as security pull Moose off, part of Moose's very lovely suit gets ripped. So Moose attacks the member of security before he leaves. Backstage, Gia Miller asks Moose what happened out there. And Moose says that he's tired of all these independent wrestlers who are looking for him opportunities. Just pulling back the curtain. These are never cops. These are never security. They're just independent wrestlers looking to make a buck, putting on a security t-shirt. And he's fed up of them putting their hands on superstars. Hey. And he warns all this security, indie wrestlers, that they should never put their hands on him ever again. And if they do, they will get hurt. A lot to unpack here. What were your thoughts? Let's start with Moose's initial promo here. What do you make of Moose? I know he's a pretty controversial performer.
On Twitter.
His sort of person outside of the ring. He's someone for me that his character's really grown on me in the last year. I find him quite entertaining to watch. He's got a different style of promo. He's not necessarily the most charismatic speaker, but I think he has this sinister edge that kind of works for him. And I do think he's got a presence and a star quality about him that a lot of the roster in Impact don't have. What are your thoughts on that, Andrew?
Yeah, so definitely I was going to echo those same sentiments. I definitely think Moose has an on-screen camera presence that, you know, kind of really separates him from some of the Impact roster. And there are quite a few names in Impact that do have that on-screen presence, but Moose definitely is one of those names. And like just from first of all, the match between him and Willie Mack, the I Quit match that's gonna happen at Genesis, I definitely think that's gonna be a really solid match. Like Moose has a really decent track record in Impact as far as like having these like hardcore type matches. I think he had one with Sami Callihan at the I think it was the Hard to Kill pay-per-view maybe last year, I believe it was, or it was with Eddie Edwards, I believe it was. But yeah, Moose has always done well in these hardcore style matches, no disqualification matches. And you know, I like that they brought up that he sort of took Willie out. I think that was on that mid-November episode of Impact. When they ended in the match via referee stoppage. And another thing that I really liked about this was I like how Impact really kind of lets Willie Mack kind of flow his own way on the mic and let him find the emotion himself instead of trying to like pocket these little things in there where when you want him to pick up his voice. Like I feel like it was very important for them to just let Willie Mack speak and then like let him come across that emotion on his own. And you can tell he kind of did that. He started to pick up the bass in his voice. He started to get loud a little bit, and then, you know, when to tone it down and when to turn it up. And I think Willie did a real good job of like really getting his promo over and, you know, solidifying his character's hate for Moose. And the post segment promo about him getting tired of independent wrestlers, that was hilarious. But like again, you know, it kind of made me think like, as let's say after this Willie Mack deal happens on the 9th at Genesis, like what independent wrestler could be next to get on Moose's nerves? You know, who knows what could happen? But I was very pleased to see that Willie Mack was you know, just to see the improvement in his promos and just see how he kind of navigated this one, and it was organic. I really like that.
Yeah, it did seem like a line to kind of set up the debut of maybe some indie wrestler who's coming into Impact, or just like Jobber of the Week story that Moose kind of starts going through. It feels like with the Kenny story, the Rich Swann match is on the back burner now, because it felt like it was the direction they were going for the next big pay-per-view. So they're doing the other match with Mac. I agree with you. I think I Quit's a great stipulation for these two. And I'm ready for Moose to face someone a little younger and a little better, because he's been feuding with Rhino, Tommy Dreamer, Ken Shamrock over the last year. I'm kind of ready to see him wrestle someone more 2020, you know.
Hey, I'm about to say, and maybe that's that independent wrestler that he's referring to. Maybe they're looking into somebody who's like, you know, got a hot name right now, who they're looking for Moose to kind of bounce off of, and he can have a really great match with.
Absolutely, and I think Matt can be that guy too. I need to get more out of Mac. You were saying that you kind of got that emotion from him. I feel there's still stuff being held back, and that hasn't quite been unlocked with him yet when it comes to his promo. I think when you watch him in the ring, I think he comes across very charismatic, but I never quite get that with his promos. And I think maybe he's just this laid back guy, and that's kind of what he's trying to get across, but the laid-back guy never particularly gets me invested as a wrestling fan. Like, I need a bit more oomph. And I really hope Mac unlocks that at one point for me. I think that's a fair point. Okay, so literally the last thing I said before we cut off was I was talking about Willie's specific promo. I felt like this was probably one of the better ones that he's done, and then that was when it was just, it cut off right after that. Okay, I'll let you pick it up then, and I'll follow.
All right, that's cool. So you just want to get it going?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So yeah, basically, this promo from Willie Mack, it felt like this was probably more one of his better promos, and his promo ability has been kind of up and down. But maybe this is probably where that, that arc in his promo ability kind of comes in, like just letting him feel the emotion that he feels while being on the mic. And also I feel like Willie is one of those performers that's like he really benefits from the crowd. Like he's very, I don't want to say super reliant on the crowd, but he really feeds off their energy like how most wrestlers do. But I feel like it kind of gives him that little bit of extra backing to have that live energy, reacting and, backing up what he's saying.
I'd agree with that. I think he has a good connection with the crowd. People naturally just like this guy and want to see him succeed. So yeah, I really just hope it comes all together for him, because I am a fan of Willie Mack, but I see him being a bigger deal than he is, and I feel he's been at this position now for quite a while, and I really think it is that promo that he needs to fix.
Mm-hmm.
We go forward with Chris Bay and Rohit Raju, both coming off of losses from Final Resolution on Saturday. Now, we haven't really gone into the pay-per-view. Did you get a chance to watch any of it at all, or did you see all of it from Saturday?
I saw clips of it. I did not get a chance to watch the show in full. I did see Chris Bay in the Super J Cup tournament. That was very cool to see, man. So shout out to Chris Bay. He pulled off the old Rick Rude, putting on 2 shows in one night. I believe it was the Final Resolution the night. But that was on the same night, correct?
Oh yeah, there were so many people doing double duty that night. You had Leo Rush wrestling as Spider-Man on one show in one country even, and then elsewhere. But yeah, I really enjoyed the main event, Chris Bay versus Rich Swann for the Impact Championship. I thought it was a very solid main event and one I was looking forward to seeing. So, but we've got both Chris Bay and Rohit Raju coming off of losses, and Chris Bay just starts taunting Rohit. Now, these two have a bit of history. Chris Bay was actually X Division champion at one point, and Rohit Raju was in his corner and kind of helping him win, but ended up stealing the championship from him and was using Chris Bay all along. I think I've got that X Division championships flipped around so much this year. I can't quite keep track, but yeah, it was Chris Bay was trying to use Rohit Raju, but in the end it was Rohit using Chris Bay, and Rohit's had a little bit of a run with it now, losing it on Saturday. So Chris Bay comes in and is mocking Rohit for his loss at Final Resolution. And Rohit says that he isn't the only one to lose his match, but at least he gets a rematch, unlike Bay. And Chris Bay starts saying, well, look, we both know Manic, who took the title from Rohit on Saturday. We both know it's TJP in a mask. And the rule is TJP wasn't allowed to challenge you for the X Division Championship. So if we can prove that TJP is in fact Manic, you'll get your title back. So how about you come to the ring with me for my match later, and you can try and help me remove the mask of Manic, and that way we both win. So Rohit's like, okay, yeah, I get what you're saying, and agrees to be ringside for his match later against Manic. What do you think of these two guys? I'm quite a big fan of both of them. Character-wise, I think they're both excellent.
So firstly, I got kudos to Chris Bay for the Ultimate Finesse nickname, because that came into play big right here. I think a lot of people kind of caught that. He kind of he really finessed his way into this back into the X Division title scene in a way, because I think initially when I saw this, the first thing I was thinking was he's about to use Rohit to help him beat Manic, which is TJP, and then get himself an X Division title shot at Hard to Kill, and possibly get involved in that 3-way, because I think that's kind of the way that they're leaning right now, is a 3-way between Manic and Rohit and Chris Bay, and then Chris Bay ended up getting the win anyway. So I think that was like they really played into this aura that Chris Bay has as far as him being able to sneak his way into certain situations, and he kind of did that, and he played Rohit even though Rohit I thought that Rohit was going to help him get a clean win over TJP, but they kind of did it the DQ way, where he ended up hitting Chris Bay, which led to him winning the match anyway. So I think that was a clever way to kind of get Chris Bay back involved in the title scene, especially because like you normally see it in some wrestling companies, not all, but like they kind of have trouble with building a talent back up after a big title loss. So I think they did a real good job at like kind of sliding Chris Bay right back into that X Division title scene, where he it really seemed like he came off that loss to Swan and didn't really lose a step.
Yeah, I found this quite entertaining. Both are sort of devious, scheming characters, but both trying to out-scheme each other. I thought it was quite fun here. We go to another paid advertisement from AEW. We see Tony Khan and Tony Schiavone, who say that it's great to be on cable access TV, and if we stay tuned after the show, we will get a city council meeting. Tony Khan says it's nice to be on Impact's program and help fund them with these paid commercials. Khan says that he likes seeing Omega on Impact, and he's not going to slap an injunction on him for breach of contract because he thinks he's one of the two best wrestlers in the world, along with Jon Moxley. And Khan says that Callis says he came to Dynamite to teach him a lesson, but he didn't teach him anything. Khan came away with one of the best ratings of the year and is getting free advertisement for Impact every time Omega shows up on TV. So Callis' plan really isn't working here. Schiavone says that he doesn't even know where to find Access and says that when he searches for Access, his TV says, "Dude, why?" They both then go on to promote all of the matches tomorrow night on Dynamite, and Schiavone says that he even asked Christopher Daniels and Frankie Kazarian, "Remember when Impact had fans when it was called TNA?" And they both replied, "No, we don't." Khan then invites Callis back to Dynamite tomorrow and says that he will teach him some lessons about the wrestling business. Very entertaining once again from these two. The shots were a lot less subtle than last week, a lot more on the nose, like very obvious digs here, mocking even the very channel they're on. They're mocking Access, they're mocking Impact, they're mocking lack of fans. What did you think of this? The second time we've seen one of these on Impact.
I love the overall progression of it. Like as you mentioned, it was very like, some things that you would have to catch in last week's promo, and it was very like, there's some things that you would have to like, oh, let me go back and listen to that. But this one was like just straight in your face, like they was straight up clowning Impact. And I know I've overly clowned Impact about it being on the Access channel, and being that channel being hard to find and hard to get. But like I think one of the better transitions was them talking about Frankie Kazarian and Christopher Daniels' match on Dynamite tomorrow, and then them saying that they were the two best wrestlers in Impact in Impact history, man. So I'm really liking this whole that dynamic that they got going on. And then of course Scott D'Amore, he's fine doing this, sending his shots back on social media. But what do you think is maybe the end game in this specific instance? Do you think maybe they do something with Tony Schiavone and Josh Matthews on commentary? Do you think that we'll get some type of? I can't see Tony Khan trying to get like. I mean, he's already on screen, but like I can't see him doing some like live segment with Scott D'Amore or something. Like I can't see that happening. But like, do you think maybe we'll get some interaction between Tony Schiavone and Josh Matthews, maybe for that interpromotional match at Hard to Kill?
Oh God, don't say that. I'm enjoying this feud. Don't promise me a Tony Schiavone Josh Matthews feud. No. I want this to kind of be it. I hate feuds in commentary because it always detracts from the in-ring work when you're just getting the bickering going on. Like, I mean, you could have Tony has to step in to like fill in Madison Rain's shoes one week or something like that. I don't want to see that. What I would prefer is now Scott D'Amore has similar kind of advertisements on Dynamite and gets his shots back in because D'Amore is very, very entertaining. I think he could totally pull it off. I kind of don't want to see it progress more than this because as soon as you're getting office people taking too much TV time away from the talent, that's when in the past, you really turn people off. I think I preferred last week's more. Last week's was the backhanded compliments, whereas this was a lot more, hey, Impact, you shit. Like, it was very on the nose. Enjoyable, though. Yeah, but I think I feel a bit bad for Impact now, and I think that's how we're meant to feel. So I do want to see Impact get a bit of revenge on Dynamite TV.
They really are getting clowned, and like I think we started like, 'cause like we haven't seen any like any rebuttal of substance from Impact yet. Like, well, of course we've seen the social media digs, but like it just means more when you have it happening on a television show. So I think maybe they need to get some, like, if they're planning to go this route of just, you know, some type of back and forth with these paid advertisements, then, you know, I think that's the way for Impact to go to. I think you brought up a great point about them having some more Dynamite. And yeah, I like the Tony Schiavone and Josh Matthews thing was just an idea. Now that we kind of, you know, now that I'm minutes off from saying that, it don't sound.
It was a bad idea, like Andrew.
It don't sound like the best idea at all. But like not necessarily like a feud between them two. Like maybe just something on commentary, like, you know, but not over dragging it. But like, you know, little subtle digs at each other every once in a while, but like not taking away from the match. But, you know, I think that's a stretch. So we gonna let that stay where it's at in the imagination.
I think that's okay if it's for a segment, like when you have Taz come on commentary for a Team Taz match, or even Callis coming on commentary for the Kenny matches. I don't mind that, but I don't want a whole show of just Tony and Josh Matthews going back and forth.
Oh no. But see, when I was kind of getting at was like with this interpromotional match that we got coming up. That's kind of like one of the things.
Oh, I'm with you.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. You could do that.
That's what I was like specifically mentioning, like that interpromotional match. Like, not, of course, not for. I don't want to hear that for the whole show. But like, I was thinking, like, just so we got this interpromotional match. Of course, you're gonna want AEW representation and you're gonna want Impact representation. And I was like, you might as well combine one of the two. Like, would you rather have Jim Ross and Josh Matthews on commentary, Dave?
No. No. Yeah. I could see that, actually. You're right. I think for that match, you should have some sort of AEW representation, and Shivani's probably the right guy to do it. We go to our first of 3 Eric Young and Cody Dina vignettes. This is filmed sort of cinematic style. We're in a prison. We've seen Eric Young use these promos before for previous pay-per-views. And it's Eric Young just talking about sickness and disease. He says he's really familiar with disease as he lost his mother to it. And he says, you can't talk down or reason or even buy sickness. It has to be removed and it has to be destroyed. He then says that he sees what the true sickness was, and the camera pans to see Cody Dina, who is kind of sat at an interview table, and he's got his hands on the desk in handcuffs, and Young says that he is going to baptize Dina in the holy water of change. I think maybe let's move on and just talk about all 3 of these vignettes in one go when we talk about the last one, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, that's cool with me.
We go to our next match of the evening: Chris Bay versus Chris Bay with Rohit Raju versus Manik. And as soon as the bell rings, Chris Bay jumps Manik in the corner and is just beating down. At one point, Bay runs into the corner, but Manik moves, throwing him chest first into the turnbuckle, allowing Manik to capitalize with the head scissors, followed by a torch rack submission. Manik sends Bay to the outside and follows with a plancher. We get great back and forth between these two. At one point, Manik is draped across the second rope, and Bay hits a elbow drop off the turnbuckle to the back, which looked pretty cool. Manik makes a brief comeback and hits Bay with a spinning elbow to the back of the head. At one point, Bay goes for the Art of Finesse, which is his like os cutter, but Manik scouts it. And then Manik crawls under the ring, and both Chris Bay and Rohit are looking very confused. The referee starts counting, and Manik comes out the other side of the ring, climbs to the top rope, hits a cross body, and follows up with the Benadriller. as he's staring a hole through Rohit on the outside. Bay then hits Manik with an undetected low blow. Rohit comes in the ring as the referee's distracted and tries to remove the mask, but the referee turns around and catches him. Then Bay starts shouting at Rohit, asking him, "What are you doing?" And this pisses off Rohit, so he attacks Bay from behind, causing the referee to call the disqualification, and therefore Bay defeats Manik via disqualification in 6 minutes 51 seconds. And after the match, you see Bay is kind of pretending to sell the attack from Rohit, but is smiling as it looks like it was his plan all along to get the DQ win. Andrew, what were your thoughts here?
So I think it was a solid outing from TJP and Chris Bay.
Yes, it's
like
worth reiterating
earlier,
that TJP is playing Manik here.
Okay, I forgot to clarify that. But we mentioned that earlier before
we did.
But I think it was a solid outing from Chris Bay and Manik, and I think this is the direction they're probably going to go for Hard to Kill. I think they're going to end up going a 3-way. I think we're going to get Bay, Rohit, and Manik, and probably they'll reveal him as TJP at the event or after the event at some point. But I think this was a good way to go. They really played up the Ultimate Finesse character, that Ultimate Finesse nickname that surrounds Chris Bay, and that is Chris Bay. So I think this is a clever way to get there, and I'm interested to see how they kind of, further build upon this as we get closer to Hard to Kill, which is like 4 or 5 weeks away.
Yeah, I'm perfectly fine with that 3-way. This match, I think there's better out of these two. I found the end. You can see what they're doing. It's playing into the sort of story between Bay and Rohit. But by the end of the match, end of the night, we had so many disqualifications and distraction finishes that it was getting a bit frustrating. And I never felt that the match completely got going. We did have a commercial in the middle there, which broke it up. I think there's definitely a better match with these two down the line. But this is to drive the story forward. And these two, it's Chris Bay and TJP. You know they're going to put on a good match there. Yeah,
definitely. I think, I do agree with your point that it should have. I would have preferred that Bay use Rohit to get a clean win over Manik. I think that would have been maybe better instead of getting another disqualification. But this is the way to go. And maybe you don't want to pin your X Division champion right after they just won the title. So I mean, you had to pick or choose. Like either you pin your X Division champ right after they won the title, or you kind of just go the DQ route. I mean, it's kind of you pick and choose which one you want to have. I think it was going to be either positives and negatives coming out of either one.
Yeah. We go forwards with Ethan Page finding Josh Alexander backstage, and these two are going through a little bit of a possible breakup. You had Ethan Page cost Josh Alexander the match against Chris Sabin last week, and then this weekend at Final Resolution, Ethan Page lost to Karl Anderson, and kind of Josh Alexander looked really upset about it, and Ethan Page was promising him, I'm going to fix this. So Ethan Page finds Alexander and is promising him that he's got a plan and he's going to fix this, and they'll get them that number one contender shot again. And Alexander says, look, you're my best friend and your brother, but we can't be a team right now. You need to focus on yourself and sort yourself out, and kind of then we'll talk. And Page says, we will always have your back. And Alexander's like, we? And he's like, yes, we. They're doing this thing that Ethan Page kind of has all these personalities. So now they're kind of playing it up a lot more with Page saying, yeah, we are going to have your back. We then have Brian Myers enter and suggests to Josh Alexander that maybe they should be a tag team because he's won the tag team championship before. He said he's won it in front of 82,000 people, and he's even won the Impact Tag Team Championship before. And Alexander replies by saying that he would rather kick his ass than be his tag team partner. Looks like a bit of a babyface turn from Josh Alexander here, I thought. And in a sense, Ethan Page too, but I feel we're meant to be on Alexander's side here, being frustrated by his partner. And also Brian Myers has been positioned as a proper heel in this company. So, yeah, looks like a bit of a babyface turn from Alexander is what I got.
Yeah, let me ask you, do you buy Josh Alexander as a babyface? I just can't see it. I can't see it. Like, I mean, I can see the direction they're going, and I can see how within the specific story and the characters involved, how he can be the babyface. But past this, can you see Josh Alexander being like a long-standing babyface?
It doesn't really suit his style. I mean, Ethan Page is much more the promo guy, and I think Ethan Page is someone that could work either way as a babyface or a heel. I don't see Josh Alexander as a singles guy working as a babyface. As a tag team, yes, I think they could.
But he's a heel, man. You could, like, that's just
everything about his style and everything. It's just he's a bully, yes. Right? He's a thug in the ring. So it doesn't quite work. But I'm not totally against if these guys get back together having a babyface North run. I think that would work. Yeah,
but definitely. And for those who are maybe getting their early glimpse at the Karate Man gimmick, let me just tell you this. Tommy Dreamer, who's a part of the Impact Wrestling team, he thinks this gimmick is the greatest thing ever. So do not be surprised if this is not going to be this might not be the last time that you will see the Karate Man on screen, because Tommy Dreamer is absolutely in love with this version of Ethan Page.
Wow. Okay. We're back in Kenny Omega's bus, and Karl Anderson is upset by the disrespect from Rich Swann. And Omega says that Anderson is the G1 2012 finalist and calls Swann Rich the bitch. They then kind of fire up Anderson again, tell him to go out there. So Karl leaves. And then Omega's still there, and he says to Callis, look, I'm actually quite pissed off. I'm not going to let Rich Swann get away with this disrespect. So showing that now Kenny seems a bit more motivated in Impact Wrestling. Doesn't want to just hang out there, but he maybe has a bit more of an agenda, which will come into play later tonight. Anything to say about this segment, or shall we move forwards?
We can move forward. We're going to save our thoughts for the
save our thoughts for the end. Yeah. We go to a semi-final match for the Knockout Tag Team Tournament. Kiera Hogan and Tasha Steelz versus Taya Valkyrie and Rosemary. Now,
kudos on this match. Kudos.
Yes.
Kudos.
Tasha Steelz and Taya Valkyrie start the match, and Taya immediately takes Tasha down with a crossbody. She starts taunting Kiera in the corner before slamming Steelz for a 2 count. Rosemary gets tagged in, and they do a bit of double team action, Irish whipping Rosemary into the corner to take out Tasha before delivering an exploder suplex, which I always think Rosemary hits pretty well. Kiera gets tagged in, but immediately gets hit with a sidewalk slam. As the referee is distracted, Steele, who is on the apron, hits a roundhouse kick to Rosemary, and this allows Kiera Hogan and Rosemary to get the advantage for quite a while. They're now isolating Rosemary in the corner, making quick tags to each other, beating her down. At one point, Rosemary hits her like tarantula move over the ropes and tries to make it in the corner, but Kiera runs round to pull Taya off the apron. Then Tasha jumps off the top rope to try and hit Rosemary with a move, but misses. She rolls through and gets hit by the spear, allowing Rosemary to tag Taya in. Taya hits Hogan with a beautiful-looking blue thunder bomb, and at this point, Deonna Purrazzo and Kimber Lee come out and just attack Rosemary on the outside. Kiera tries to capitalize by rolling Taya up with a schoolboy, but Taya kicks out. And then Purrazzo delivers a flatliner to Rosemary on the stage. And as Taya is checking on her partner, Kiera hits her with the cradle neckbreaker for the win. I thought this was one of the best matches on the show tonight. Solid action between these four. I think both these two have really gelled. Both these two teams have really gelled as a team. So I thought this was a really entertaining match. You seem to be pretty high on it as well.
Yeah, I definitely think it was one of the better matches of the night. Kiera and Tasha, man, they really bounce well off each other, and I think that just comes from I think these pairings, tag teams, they always work better when the two are like genuinely friends off screen. Yes. And you can tell they are. You can just tell by their interactions on social media as well, and you know how they speak of one another in interviews. Like they're genuinely friends, and that comes off very well on screen, and they work together very well in the ring. And I think maybe this loss probably frees Taya Valkyrie up to venture off into the Knockouts title picture, because maybe that it doesn't seem like there was anybody that was really there for Deanna. But now you had this, this thing there with Taya that's evident there. She cost her the title match, so that will cost her the tournament match. So maybe that's going to be in Deanna's future for Hard to Kill. And just speaking specifically on Kiera and Tasha, man, I think we said it last week that we both kind of agreed that maybe they were the safe pick to run with the Knockouts tag titles to get that first run and have Jazz do the honors. And have that sympathy babyface type thing, but I think people would be happy for Kiera and Tasha overall.
Yeah, these are my pick to win. I can see Jazz wanting to put these two over as well. I think they're fantastic. I think there's, again, like there's a kind of theme tonight. There's better out of these four. I found the interference, again, quite annoying. I know it's to set up stories, but the referee looked so fucking dumb. Because this was just like the beat down they were doing on Rosemary for so long. Like, surely he heard something. Like, it wasn't he was taken out or anything. It was mere feet away from him, and he was fucking clueless.
The fans distracted him, the fan noise. But it wasn't even no fan noise. It was the invisible crowd distracting him.
Yeah. Yeah, it's silent there. There's no one there. It just kind of irritated me, especially when we've had similar finishes for the rest of the night. I do think, though, I think you're completely right with Taya moving into that challenger role for Deanna. And I think we were talking about seeing Josh Alexander as a babyface, which we can't quite see. I think Taya over the last couple of months has really transitioned herself into quite an entertaining babyface. And it's been quite a slow turn, but it seemed very natural. And I think she's actually fitting the role really well, because it's a character who was very unlikable for a long time. And, I mean, that's how she was meant to be. She was the heel. But I think this strange pairing with Rosemary has actually done her a lot of good. And I do buy her as a babyface now.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And for just to commend her on her singles run as a heel and Knockouts champion, that lengthy reign that she had, I think she did a really solid job of really like locking in on the Impact Women's Division and like kind of, I don't want to say carrying it, because she had a lot of contributors alongside her as well, but she was like, she was the face of that division for quite a long time, and I think she is very believable as a baby face. And then going up against Deanna, who's been like really doing a solid job as well ever since recapturing the Knockouts title, and even before when she had her initial run. I'm interested to see the dynamic between these two going forward as we inch closer to like Hard to Kill. And like you said, Impact's women's division is like really, 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 really good, and they have a lot of key pieces that can roll around. And I'm interested to see how everybody else kind of filters out post this Knockouts tag title tournament, because most of the division, or some of the division, was kind of taking part in this. And I'm interested to see how Jordan Grace kind of comes into the fold. Maybe you can get a match out of Jazz again. You never know, like what could happen. So it's gonna be cool to see how things kind of go forward. But yeah, I definitely think Taya has done a solid job as a babyface over the past couple months.
We're back at prison with Eric Young and Cody Dina, and Eric Young tells us that as a child, he always liked happy stories. He says that they would help us feel better, but in actual fact, they were all lies that hid us from the truth. Young tells us that professional wrestling is sick, and he is now talking to Cody Dina and tells him that Dina gave everything for his love of pro wrestling, and he is waiting for it to give back to him, but it never has. He tells Dina that a disease cannot give back, a sickness cannot give, and it cannot provide, it can only take. The parasite has latched onto you, and you could never see it. And as he says this, Joe Doering steps out of his prison cell. To be continued. We'll be back at prison a little bit later. But moving on, we have your favourite, Andrew, and apparently everyone's favourite.
David, can I take the reins on this one, brother?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all,
hold on, man.
How many tweets have you had about this guy this week?
Man, I'm telling you, this is probably one. Well, just so everybody can know who we're talking about. Firstly, Kiera and Tasha were celebrating their win because they're going to the finals in the Knockouts tag title tournament, and on the other side of the bracket is going to be Jordan Grace and Jazz versus Nevaeh and Havoc, and that'll round out the finals that is going to take place at Hard to Kill. But as Tasha and Kiera, when they're celebrating, they were met by the swing man, Johnny Swinger, who rudely, of course, came in and said, are you two Brizzards ready to party? And Kiera and Tasha were not happy with that at all. They told him to get his old ass out of the room. They were not happy with his statements. And Johnny Swinger apparently, I'm assuming he stole something out of Tasha's fanny pack, and he called it the he called it the
kayfabe compartment.
The kayfabe.
So, yeah, we've had this ongoing story for months now. It started off with Rhino and Hernandez arm wrestling for money. And this kind of roll of money has been just hopping around the whole Impact roster, people stealing it off of each other. And Keira and Tasha Steelz stole it from Fallah Bahh the other week. And Tasha has been in charge of it, but has been keeping secret from Keira where it's been, and she's saying, look, I don't know where it's gone, I think it's stolen from me. And she tells Keira to check her fanny pack. It's like, look, it's not in there. But she stupidly left the fanny pack behind, and Johnny Swinger, being a lover of fanny packs, decides to upgrade to this fancy gold number, and yes, finds the kayfabe compartment, which I think was brought up, was it last week, where he had his essentially steroids he was hinting at.
Yes.
But yeah, Johnny Swinger seems to be a big fan. We got a lot of feedback from our review last week being like, hey, glad you love Johnny Swinger too. So
bro,
people come for Kenny Omega and stay for Johnny Swinger, clearly.
Bro, this dude is like legit hilarious. Like just these like old school sayings that he has and the mannerisms and just this like carny like attitude that he has towards the other wrestlers. Though it is hilarious, man. Like, and I think this is kind of the perfect role for him, and kind of filter him in and out throughout these comedy segments. And obviously, I'm glad they don't kind of like overdo it. They kind of keep him like one segment per week, like maybe a segment and a half here and there. Like, but I like that they kind of like they don't try to overdo it, because I feel like once you like, and you can even not to switch too much, but you can kind of see it with WWE and how they're doing Matt Riddle. Like, obviously somebody thinks he's funny, so he's like in every other segment saying something that they think is funny, and it's up to you to decide if you think that's funny or not. But I'm glad that Impact isn't like overdoing the Swinger thing, because he legit is funny. So I'm glad that there's not like every other segment we get some Johnny Swinger thing.
I felt they were at one point overdoing it with Johnny Swinger. Kind of beginning of the empty arena thing, he seemed to be in everything. But they have the right balance of him now. And I want a lot less of him in the ring, and just more segments like this.
Yes.
I'm absolutely fine with. We go to our next match. Josh Alexander versus Brian Myers. It starts off, it's a very heavy hitting match between these two. Alexander tries to take the advantage on Myers. Ethan Page comes out to support his friend, his tag team partner, but Myers grabs him and runs him headfirst into the ring post, taking him out. And as Myers is doing this, Alexander tries to take the advantage on a distracted Myers and takes him down, but There's a lot of back and forth here. Alexander hits a big boot and attempts to hit his Tiger Driver 98, the butterfly driver, whatever you want to call it, but Myers fights out, and Myers then sets up for his clothesline, but Ethan Page comes in dressed as the Karate Man and causes the disqualification in 3 minutes 31 seconds. Not much of a match here at all. I actually quite enjoyed what I saw. I thought they worked quite a hard style. But this was all to set up the return of the Karate Man, who takes out Myers with a series of karate-style kicks and karate poses. And at the end, Josh Alexander just stares at Ethan Page because he's frustrated that he cost him the match. So more dissension between this team.
I'm going to say that I was not a fan at all of this whole ordeal. I just I couldn't get into it. Like, I tried to like try to like see some positives in it, but like I felt like it was better ways to go about it. Like, but I mean, just Josh Alexander, like, I mean, and like I said earlier, him within this specific storyline, I think is going to work just with Ethan Page kind of being like the annoying tag team partner that's trying to make amends, but he's kind of like losing himself and he doesn't know how else to get back in Josh Alexander's good graces, so he's just going all out and lashing out. And I can see Josh Alexander just getting frustrated and the people rooting for him automatically, and then you find some way to fit Brian Myers in there. But like, it's like, man, like, again, outside of this, how is this going to benefit Josh Alexander with him in his in-ring style and him with his look just coming off as a natural heel? I just don't see it working. I just wasn't a fan of another DQ finish on this show. So, man, they got some convincing to do as far as like this Josh Alexander thing goes, and just to like, and Ethan Page, like, I think we all know he's openly stated that his contract with Impact is up at the end of the year. So, I think it's better ways to kind of tell a story of somebody possibly exiting, maybe staying, or a tag team possibly breaking up, or maybe staying together. Like, I think it's better ways to present it opposed to the goddamn Karate Man coming in and causing a DQ. Yeah,
I completely agree. This turned me off the show, to be honest. I'm not a massive fan of Brian Myers, but I actually thought these two were working a style I could get into, and then after just 3 minutes, you get another DQ. Literally every match in this show has a distraction or a DQ for the finish. And I'm just like, can I just get a wrestling match, please? And then it's just it's the stupid shit that makes you embarrassed by wrestling. When people ask you, why do you watch it? That's dumb. And you try and justify, oh, no, it's more than that. And then this is always the segment that someone would come in and watch and be like, no, this is dumb. Dude comes in dressed as a karate man. I love Ethan Page. I even feel you can do these kind of his alter egos thing, but you don't need to do it as on the nose as just dressing up as someone different, This is frustrating.
I'm about to say, you want to know something, like, because I feel like when people hear what you just said, they'll try to come back on the notion that, well, how do you enjoy Johnny Swinger but like you don't enjoy the Karate Man? Like, and I think it's another one of those things just in professional wrestling where certain stuff appeals to certain people and some stuff doesn't. The Karate Man on TV doesn't necessarily appeal to me. Like, it just doesn't. It doesn't click. And maybe it does to certain people. For me, and obviously for you, like, it just didn't click within this certain story. Like, maybe in any other story, maybe if it was just a strictly comedic segment, maybe it would fit. But like, you're trying to tell the story of Josh Alexander being extremely frustrated, and I mean, maybe in some ways it kind of works, like with you continuously like annoying Josh Alexander to the point where he may snap. But like, at the same time, I felt like at least let him get the win, or at least have some type of direct finish to the match, opposed to Ethan Page like creeping up under the ring and like him just staring at the wall, like, and him just being confused as hell about like what what just occurred, or in this trance of some sort. Like it was like kind of corny, and I wasn't feeling it, and I didn't think it came off well.
No, I completely agree, Andrew. We go to our final Eric Young and Cody Dina vignette. Eric Young says that all he is offering is the truth, nothing more. He tells Dina that he thought his smiles were real, and he thought that all the laughs and cheers Dina got from the crowds were real, but he's wrong. He says that people were laughing at him, not with him. He tells Dina that he has a disease, and everything kind of Eric Young's saying, Dina is now repeating. So he's like, they weren't laughing at you, with you, they were laughing at you, and Dina repeats this. Young says that Dina's purest form is in the holy water of change. He tells him that he is no longer sick and that he is awakened. We then see Cody dripping with water as if he's been like baptized and reawakened. Young now tells him that he is free, and Cody looks down at his hands and sees that the handcuffs are no longer there. Young tells Dina that the world doesn't belong to them, it belongs to us. Okay, Andrew, are you a fan of these segments? I thought they were shot very well. I thought they performed very well, but I can't say this is really for me.
David, it just didn't click, man. Like it's like man, look, hey, Jake, maybe this is the beginning of the Jake something singles push, which I think has been long overdue. Like I think he's always kind of, when you see the Deaners, he was kind of always the one that you immediately kind of gravitate to. Like, so I mean, maybe this is some positive coming out of this, and you know they're trying to do something with Cody Deaner, and again, maybe it appeals to people, but it just did not click to me at all. I wasn't a fan of this whole ambiance thing that they had going on with the prison and all that stuff. I mean, and it's like, you know, I remember you said something last week where you were like, Eric Young has kind of been hit or miss for you as far as since he came back. Like some stuff has been good, some stuff has been kind of and like I feel like this one is kind of like one of those misses. But you know, I think a positive out of this is that we're probably going to get Jake something just maybe doing away with this Diener thing and kind of like honing in on a character that could be like, maybe they just let him be Jake something on TV, or maybe they just call him Jake or something like that. Like maybe they just, but I think the best thing out of this is that they kind of slowly move him away from this whole Diener thing that's kind of been surrounding him for the past several years or however long he's been with Impact.
Yeah, the thing, it all sounds very impressive, what Young is saying, but I feel it just lacks substance. It's Bray Wyatt mumbo jumbo to me. He's when he returned in Slammiversary. What was that? August? Earlier than that, maybe. July.
Well, yeah.
So we're talking 5 months, coming up to 6 months of Eric Young just talking about disease and my world and all this. But what are you saying? What is it you want? I don't understand his agenda at all. And this all looked very nice. I thought he delivered his lines very well. I thought Cody Dina looked very committed to it and played his part well. Joe Doring looks scary in a prison cell, but it all means nothing to me. That's the problem, and I don't see where you're going with it. And unfortunately, I'm with you. I think we're going to a Cody Dina versus Cousin Jake feud, but with Eric Young being a sort of semi-main eventer he was just the world champion. I don't see Cousin Jake coming out on top in that, which is a shame because I feel he should be your focus, but I just don't have faith that that's the direction they're going to go.
I'm about to say maybe they believe that Cousin Jake does have more. Cousin Jake has more upside, and maybe they feel like I feel like, you know, if I was looking at it from, you know, their perspective, like I see Jake something as the more valuable option, and I feel like with Cody Deaner, he's the more fragile as far as character goes. I think if he were to go and just jump into something with cousin Jake and then lose, it would just be like, okay, Jake's the star, that he's obviously the star of the pair, and then Cody kind of fades off into the background. So like I do feel like if they were to have a singles match with Eric Young being involved, it would probably be Cody coming out with the win, just because he needs it more than Jake. Like Jake has this one of those things, kind of like Moosey as a star presence when you see him on screen, just the size and the look, and of course his in-ring ability. And then Cody is the kind of not, it doesn't match up. So yeah, he in this feud that they are going to do a singles match, man, Cody definitely needs it more than Jake. And I can kind of see, your point right there as far as like how this thing could turn out.
We have Tommy Dreamer backstage. He's approached by AC Romero. Now, at Final Resolution on Saturday, Tommy Dreamer defeated Larry D, which meant that Larry D had to go to jail for shooting John E. Bravo. Yes, you heard that right. That was the stipulation. AC Romero says that he's known Larry D since they were kids and knows that he was set up. Larry D wouldn't do that. So Dreamer suggests that Romero goes and proves it. The camera pans and we see Rhino giving like a pep talk to cousin Jake, and Tommy Dreamer approaches them and asks them if they're afraid of Eric Young and Joe Doering. Both these guys over the last few weeks have been attacked by Young and Doering. And Rhino says that they aren't afraid of anybody. So Dreamer suggests that they go and do something about it by ending them. So
good old 6-man tag.
Yeah, I guess that's where we're going, and I think that's the match where hopefully they go in the direction with pushing cousin Jake here, or Jake something, and move him up the roster a bit as more of a single star. But we've already kind of said our doubts there.
Would you bank on this match probably happening at Genesis?
It sounds like a Genesis match. Yeah. You could. And then maybe do what? Like Jake versus Young at Hard to Kill, or Jake versus Dina, or is that just not big enough to really put on the pay-per-view? I mean, that's the direction they're going.
Honestly, I don't think Jake versus Eric Young sounds like a bad idea at Hard to Kill. I definitely think that's the way you go. Like maybe like they just nip this Cody thing in the bud at the Genesis show, and maybe they have Jake get the win over him. I don't see them pinning Joe Doering already. So I definitely think that maybe, or maybe Cody gets the win over Tommy Dreamer. I can't see Dreamer booking himself to. I mean, he obviously got to win, but I don't like, as far as like this long term story, like semi-long storytelling that they got going on with Cody and Jake. Maybe Tommy Dreamer take the pin in that 6-way match if that's the route they're going. But we definitely gonna see, David. We're gonna hold our hopes out for a cousin Jake push.
We go to our main event of the evening: Machine Gun Karl Anderson versus Chris Sabin with Alex Shelley in his corner. The match starts with some real classic mat wrestling, a lot of technical submissions, etc. But Karl Anderson very soon gets the advantage. We see him picture-in-picture Kenny Omega and Don Callis on their bus watching on. Anderson launches Sabin hard into the corner and keeps on going for the eyes. He keeps attacking the eyes, and each time the referee gives him the 5 count. But he does this 3 or 4 times. Sabin has a burst of momentum, but Anderson immediately comes back by sweeping his legs and sending him crashing face first into the apron. After the commercials, Anderson is still grinding down on Sabin, just wearing him down. Sabin tries to make a bit of a comeback. Both start running the ropes and they inadvertently collide heads. And this actually allows Sabin to start to get the advantage a bit. He follows up with a series of clotheslines, followed by a crossbody off the top. And then Sabin gets Anderson on his shoulders, but Anderson slips out and attempts the gun stun, but isn't able to hit it. There's a tornado DDT for a near fall from Sabin. They both start to deliver blows. The pace of the match really picks up here. They're both trading punches. They both hit kind of simultaneous running clotheslines to each other twice. Anderson catches Sabin with a spine buster for a near fall, goes for the gun stun again, but Sabin counters it into a backslide for a 2. And then Anderson rolls up Sabin with the schoolboy and grabs the tights to secure the win. Now, before we go into the post-match, what did you think of the actual match itself?
So, I'm not gonna lie to you. I was kind of expecting, something big to happen at the end. So I was kind of like waiting for that to happen. Like the whole match, I was like, what's going to happen after the match? What's going to happen after the match? But just the match itself, I think Sabin and Karl Anderson kind of work well together. I think they have a bit of a solid dynamic between each other. But most of my focus was kind of like, okay, what is about to happen after this? And I'm gonna let you tell the rest of that.
Yeah, I thought this match was pretty good, especially the latter part of the match. It was nice to see Karl Anderson kind of work singles as well, because we've only really seen his WWE stuff recently, and then obviously his Talk and Shop Mania joke matches or tag team matches. So it's nice to just see kind of the machine gun go out there and have a singles match. And I quite enjoyed his match with Paige at the weekend as well. So I thought this was pretty good. And this was one of the kind of cheating wins that I'll forgive tonight, because it did very much lead to the post-match. So as Karl Anderson...
another DQ.
It wasn't a DQ. It was cheating, but it wasn't a DQ. Thank God. After the match, Rich Swann comes out to confront Karl Anderson and is kind of shouting at him. He's going like, "What? Why are you doing that? You don't need to win that way. You're better than that." And we see Omega and Callis in their bus, and Kenny says that it's time for the champ to go out there. The argument between Anderson and Swann continues to the backstage area, and Anderson punches Swann, knocking him to the floor. Chris Sabin and Alex Shelley then run out for the save, but out of nowhere, Doc Gallows, supposedly injured, comes and attacks them, and then Kenny Omega comes in to join in the attack. Kenny then grabs the AEW title and stands over a fallen Rich Swann and says that this is what a real world title looks like, as he's just pushing the title into his face. He tells Swann that this may be your house, you may be a champion, but as long as you're a wrestler, you're in my house, and you're just living in it. Kenny then says that it's time to reform the Bullet Club, and yes, does say the Bullet Club. And Don Callis says that as EVP, he is going to make it official, and at Hard to Kill, it will be Kenny Omega and the Good Brothers versus Rich Swann and the Motor City Machine Guns. And Omega closes the show by doing his classic goodbye and good night bang. And you see the Bullet Club with Don Callis standing tall.
This was a great closing segment. Really enjoyed it. And the announcement of the 6-man tag that we're going to get at Hard to Kill, I think a lot of people have really been anticipating some type of you could say, Bullet Club is still going in New Japan. Like it never stopped. But I think it's cool to kind of see that mix of Kenny and Doc Gallows and Karl Anderson kind of get back together. And I think this is going to be maybe this is going to be like a caveat of sorts for us to get Rich versus Kenny. Like this is just a little snippet of that, and maybe they should have. I think it's gonna be one of those things where they kind of really build up to Rich and Kenny being in the same ring together. Like even when that match happens, I don't think it's gonna be something that's gonna happen right away. I think that's gonna be something that they save for like the final 10 minutes of the match, and then we just gonna get maybe just a little taste of it, and then we gonna get the real thing maybe at a Revolution pay-per-view in February where they probably do a double title match or something like that. That's just a thought, but I think this segment was well done. I found it kind of funny when I saw Don Callis trying to like throw up the gun sign, and he looked like he had he looked like he had absolutely no clue what he was doing. He was like, yeah, just in the background holding the title, like, yeah, kid, let's do it. And yeah, man, I you can tell Gallows and Anderson, they're excited to do this with Omega, and you know we'll see what this takes us. I'm pretty sure you got some thoughts and you got some opinions about where it could lead to. But Dave, what did you think overall about the segment, and you know, of course, your ideas about what's going to come after this?
Yeah, I really liked the segment. I thought it saved what I thought was a pretty bad show, to be honest. I think it still will get people buzzing tomorrow and will be newsworthy. So I think it will kind of do Impact okay with that. And I do like the idea of the 6-man. I think the curiosity of just seeing Kenny wrestle for Impact will be enough to get them a fairly good buy rate for Hard to Kill. And I think you can push off that singles match for another pay-per-view down the line, whether it is an AEW pay-per-view or another Impact one. I think it's a good idea to not go with that match right away and to build it up with the sort of reformation of the Bullet Club. Should we be reading into anything that they called it the Bullet Club? Like, as far as I'm aware, isn't that kind of owned by New Japan? Whether there's some sort of agreement there?
That is definitely an interesting point you brought up. Well, maybe it's just something that they just, you know, just let out. Like, I can't see like this Elite versus Bullet Club thing happen to go this Bullet Club USA versus Bullet Club Japan. I just can't see it like panning out, because like I think it's just too many elements within that to make that kind of work, especially with the, you know, the COVID restrictions and stuff like that as far as travel goes, and New Japan got their own stuff going on, and it's like I think it was just something that, you know, just happened to be like happenstance, like they just mentioned, you know, Bullet Club, because I mean Doc Gallows and Karl were original members, or Doc was an original member, or one of the other ways around.
Karl,
one of them would Karl was the original member in there. So yeah, man, like I don't think it was like anything too like to look into too much, but like you said earlier, like it like I think it's gonna be one of those things for now going on. It's gonna be, oh, should we be paying attention to that? Should we look at that? So I think that makes it exciting overall.
What I also really liked about this is all the other Kenny segments we've seen have felt very taped. They've been enjoyable, but they have felt taped and then kind of shoehorned in the show. Whereas this finally felt like Impact and AEW have met. I think even having Karl Anderson in the bus with Kenny, you're so used to seeing them together anyway that it doesn't kind of feel special. But now you've actually seen Kenny with Rich Swann, with Sabin and Shelley. It feels like the invasion's finally started now. You know what I mean? I thought that was pretty cool. I thought this was a great closing angle for the show.
Let me get a prediction out of you, Davie. So do you think, well, of course, I think this is going to be a way to carry on the Good Brothers and Motor City Machine Guns feud. Do you think that we get some type of, I think a tag title match is obviously going to come out of this, but do you think it would be just for the overall story going forward? And I'm just talking about for this AEW Impact thing. And I think people have mentioned the idea and thrown out the idea out there of the Young Bucks and the Good Brothers coming into contact at some point. Do you think it's for the best that the Good Brothers remain Impact World Tag Team Champions just for the foreseeable future?
Yeah, probably. I think so. I think it makes them feel a bigger deal, and I can definitely see them being on AEW TV, and I think them just carrying those titles around visually looks better. I also do see Kenny eventually taking the Impact title, and, you know, you got Moose there with the TNA Championship. He then can legitimately be like, I am the champion here, you know? So you could kind of then legitimize the TNA Championship again, so you still have a champion at Impact while Kenny's walking around and kind of taking that Impact Championship hostage. But yeah, I think there are so many options. Just out of interest, how did you watch Impact tonight? Was it on TV or did you watch the Twitch stream?
Yeah, I watched the Twitch. I watched the Twitch stream, and one thing that I found really interesting about that was when Melissa Santos.
That's what I was gonna say.
she kept talking about the haters and stuff like that, but like she constantly mentioned it, and I was like, well, I get it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, I don't think that's something that she need to keep bringing up, but like one positive thing from this was that she was just talking about how the stream was like. And then the chat room was like constantly moving just because it was so many viewers in it, and it sounded like that was something that she wasn't, I don't want to say used to, and like, you know, downplay Impact, but it just sounded like something that really caught her by surprise following last week, because I don't think she was on the Twitch stream last week. So she was just talking about how surprised she was at how fast the chat was moving and how many people were interacting. So that was cool to see, man. Like, Impact is really gaining a lot of viewership from this partnership, but I'm curious to see how long it holds up, because I'm sure that although, you know, this is really helping Impact, I'm pretty sure AEW probably wants some of that. You know, they probably want a little piece of that too, as far as like this, you know, this crossover stuff goes, as far as on their television. So yeah, it's gonna be we will see, sir. We definitely will see.
Yeah, I wanted to bring up the Twitch thing. I watched it on Twitch as well this week, and so basically, whenever it goes to commercial breaks, Melissa Santos is like fielding the chat room, and a lot of the talk was possible dream matches. So she was asking the chat room kind of what dream matches you want to see. So it feels like it's definitely something we're going to get is multiple sort of dream matches coming up between AEW and Impact. But it was quite funny because there were a lot of trolls or haters, as she was saying, in the room, and she was kind of going back and forth with them a bit. And unfortunately, I kind of found that more exciting than a lot of the show tonight, which is a bad thing to say about the show, you know?
He's shooting.
Yeah, you need to come out of these. I didn't mind last week's, but you need, like, Impact needs people to come out of this show and talk about Impact. You shouldn't be coming out of Impact and the only thing you're talking about is Kenny Omega, who's from a different show, you know? And I don't think they did a good enough job this week. I thought the women's tag was good. I think they're capable of better. And I thought the same with the main event here as well. And it goes back to us saying we don't know kind of how much was taped before and whatever, but I really hope come the new year that they kind of just go balls to the wall and really throw out some... Stop watching Raw. Stop doing these stupid DQ and distraction finishes. Like, give us finishes. Give us decent matches, because you've got the talent there. And I really want Impact to do well, and I don't want to just see it. People, I'll watch it on YouTube tomorrow. I'll find the Kenny stuff online tomorrow. I don't want people doing that. I want for the betterment of just wrestling as a whole, because WWE sucks right now. Main roster sucks, and there are other options out there, and I want Impact to be good. I want AEW to be good, and I don't think they delivered tonight for me.
So, like, one thing that I was thinking about before we started recording, as the show was going on, I was like, maybe it's not a good thing for Impact to be like so reliant on AEW, and again, it's only beginning. They're not, I want to say they like solely reliant, because it's only beginning. Impact is obviously getting a lot of the bread to begin with for this story, but I think over the coming weeks, and you know, as they start to get their next round of tapes together, I think it's important that Impact starts creating television that is important outside of this AEW thing that's going on, because the AEW thing is very exciting. Don't get me wrong. I love seeing it. It's cool as hell. I like to watch it. I like speculating about, you know, the possible dream matches, et cetera, et cetera. But I think Impact, they need to really like hone in on how to have people really hooked in on their storylines outside of this. Because I feel like a lot of people were waiting for this Kenny Omega Rich Swann interaction, or, you know, the Karl Anderson and the Kenny Omega stuff and what that could possibly lead to. So, like, I think, like, again, Impact just needs to take this time and, you know, really think about like, okay, outside of this AEW stuff, let's get people like really hooked in and invested on some of our title programs and what we got going on. And I think a solid one that they have going on right now is the Rich, Chris Bay and not the Rich, but the Chris Bay, Rohit Raju and Manic storyline / TJP, and of course the Knockouts tag title tournament, which I think is going to be a great match if they go through with the Jazz and Jordan Grace versus Kiera Hogan and Tasha Steelz. Yeah,
I agree. I mean, I think when I got back into wrestling, because I took a break for a few years, it was when I heard The Rock was coming back. And I tuned in to watch The Rock. And then I stuck around because of CM Punk and Daniel Bryan. And now I do a podcast on wrestling, you know? And I feel that's definitely what AEW need to do. Impact need to do. They need to take that opportunity. And I feel most fans of AEW who are watching Impact, AEW fans are fans of wrestling, of good matches. AEW never gives us DQs, never gives us distraction finishes. I mean, sometimes a distraction finish, but you pretty much get a clean finish and a result every match you get on AEW TV. And I think Impact could definitely learn from that moving forwards. Well, that brings us to a close for this week's Impact. I think over the next couple of weeks, we'll probably not be doing one of these because they seem to be doing best of, like award shows, compilation shows. But I think this is going to be a very week-to-week basis. We'll kind of see what we're both doing and if there's interest in Impact and whether we do a show or not. But I doubt this will be the last one we do, Andrew. But we'll probably have a little break for the holidays, I imagine.
Yeah, man, I definitely do enjoy these. It's always cool reviewing something different, man, opposed to I think I always enjoy like doing like focusing solely on one show. Like I don't really get to do a lot of these as far as like doing one show. I always kind of do like the roundup and like recapping everything that's going on. So it was kind of cool to, do this 2-week stint. And I definitely think this is going to be the last one we do. Impact got some big, the big shows that start off the year with Genesis and Hard to Kill. So maybe you will see myself and Davie Portman back again.
Maybe. What else do you have coming up, Andrew? You've got a few shows coming out this week?
Yeah, man. I got a couple podcasts that I did this week. Myself, Phil Lindsay, and Righteous Reg, who was recently on Martin and I's podcast. We all did like a 3-hour, 2-hour, 40-minute podcast recapping Reg's Black Wrestling award show and winners from that. That was really something cool, man, especially for those wrestling fans in the Black community, man. I think that was really something special that Reg put together. So shout out to him for doing that. Always putting on for Black wrestlers and Black fans who like tuning into professional wrestling. So I think that was something solid. And I'm pretty sure I got some other stuff going on this week, but like my brain is like a blur right now, just like the entire 2020. So if I'm forgetting, how could I forget this, man? Jesus. But myself and Martin are recording a new episode of Bushby and Thompson's Wrestling Adventure with Sanal. Sanal Ladd. I'm very excited to have her on, man, and we're going to be talking New Japan Pro Wrestling, the New Japan's King of Pro Wrestling 2016. That was headlined by Mirufuji versus Kazuchika Okada for the IWGP Heavyweight title. And of course, that was the one that led to Kenny Omega coming out and confronting Okada, and that led to that very special match that they had at the 2017 Wrestle Kingdom. So that's what we got on the slate for the week. I'm excited to have Sanao on, and make sure everybody check it out.
Just feels like you're doing shows with Brits these days. I think we've won you over, have we? Looking forward to listening to that one, Andrew. I'll be back Wednesday night, probably tonight by the time you're listening to this, with another episode of Up Next with Braden Harrington. This week's NXT headlined by Kyle O'Reilly versus Pete Dunne, which I'm really looking forward to this week. You can watch us live at 10:20 p.m. Eastern Time on twitch.tv/UpNext podcast, or just wait for the show to be in your podcast app. We've got a free review of Triple Mania from last Saturday up on the UpNext feed. And then coming up on the Patreon, we have our first Christmas movie review of the year, where we're looking at the Christmas horror film Krampus, starring Toni Collette and Adam Scott. That's coming out this Friday. And then this Sunday, we've got the watch-along and post-show for WWE's TLC pay-per-view. Again, twitch.tv/upNXT podcast. Bunch of shows on the Patreon. We've got more Christmas movie reviews coming out with Black Christmas. We have our best of 2020 part 1 coming up at the end of the month, where we'll be looking at numbers 10 to 6 of our best matches of the year as voted by you. So much more. We'll be having the Christmas show with John and Way, the best of, worst of with them as well. And we will also be dropping a little surprise Christmas present for free on Christmas Day. So all of that to look forward to. Check out patreon.com/upnext to see what else we have on there. We're always recording. I don't have a job anymore, so I just record every single day, and lots of content for you guys. Any final words, Andrew?
I want everybody to go check out Davie Portman streaming Uncharted on Twitch. My man is killing it right now. I thoroughly enjoyed the stream, but mostly come for the chat so you can see me and John Cena going back and forth.
Yeah, we just have... we were talking about movies today. I've been playing a bit of Uncharted 4. Great game. I love the series. I'm trying to get it finished because I'm pretty sure I'm getting Last of Us Part 2 for Christmas.
There we go. So,
yeah, check out that. We won't keep you any longer, guys. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you all soon. Take care. Be safe. Good night. And ahoy!